Welcome, everybody. My name is Mina Jane. I'm the director of the Ashland Public Library, and I am so excited to be here with Jody Blanchette. You might know her as Red Reviews from Instagram, she makes these amazing horror and thriller recommendations on Instagram. But she also, which I really love about her, is she goes to visit the authors when they're in the area. So she met two authors this week, and I was so jealous, and she's incredible. So we'll get to her in just a second and all of her awesome reviews. But I'd like to thank the Friends of the Ashland Public Library for supporting all of our programs. They are amazing. And I'd like to thank Jody for letting us share this program with other local libraries, because when local any libraries work together, we make magic. And if you have, you can use the chat to let us know where you're coming from and your own books that you've been reading. Use the Q&A if you have any questions for Jody. I will moderate them. I will also send out a list to everybody of what Jody recommends. And if there are recommendations in the chat, I will include those in that list. And I will email that to everybody soon after the program. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Jody, thank you so much for doing this again. I had a blast last year, and I cannot wait for this year.
It's going to be even better.
That'll be
I mean,
tough.
I'm just telling you right now, so far, 2025, we've been in it for what, 2 weeks now?
Mhm.
And already the books that are coming out, I've already got like two for my top 10.
Oh no.
That's saying a lot so early in the game, right? I'm
I
going
don't
to tell you about them, but it's like there's some good stuff coming out this year. And if this is just the beginning, I can't even imagine how it's going to be the rest of the year. I'm pumped.
Awesome. Well, it's a good year for horror. So let's go. What are you recommending right now? And I will tell you what I'm looking forward to this year at the later.
Oh, you can't say what you're looking forward to because you're looking forward to a romance and
No.
crap. If there's any new viewers for this year, just to let you know that I go down rabbit holes and tangents when talking about books. I am not serious. I have ADHD, so I bounce around a lot. I do like to razz on Mina, and she takes it like a good girl. And I focus mainly on horror, but I dabble in mystery and thriller, and I might throw some romance or fiction in there occasionally when I'm feeling frisky. So
No, you won't. I know you won't. But the reason she razzes on me is because I am a weenie and I don't read horror because it scares me. But that doesn't mean I don't appreciate it. And some of the books that Jody has recommended have been so intriguing. And so I will tell you that one of my favorite books of all time is The Stand by Stephen King. And there's an anthology coming out later this year that I cannot wait for. So I can talk about that later, but let's get to you.
there's going to be a lot going on with that. I'm hearing good, but we're not talking about that yet. First things first, I want to talk about. I did list my top 10 for 2024 on my Instagram page. So if you want to see all my top 10, they're there. But I'm just going to highlight my top three right now, just real quick, because I want to make sure that they're on everybody's radar. So I've got American Rapture, CJ Lead is in my top three, and Mask of Flies was in my top three by Matthew Lyon. He's more of an indie writer, but this was a phenomenal book. And Pay the Piper, Daniel Kraus and George Romero. Daniel was at Spooktastic. So that's my top three from 2024, but there was actually 10 that I narrowed it down to without really saying what my top three were. So you guys get to know really what my top three were. So starting off, for 2025, I'm going to break you in, I think, on the tamer side. This is, I think it's out. It's called A New Lease on Death by Olivia Black. I believe it's a cozy mystery. So I'm not starting you off with horror. This is how I'm going to lure you guys in. I'm going to lure you into a false sense of security and safety. And then I've got some really horrible stuff to talk about in a few minutes. So this one's about a woman who rents out this apartment from a woman had passed away in the apartment before. She rents out the apartment. Everything's still in the apartment from the previous owner. And that previous owner, who is dead, is haunting that apartment. And most of the book is the two of them trying to communicate together because they haven't quite figured out how to make it work. It's really quirky and funny. I got Finley Donovan vibes from it. And they solve like a mystery murder that happens in their building. So it's like, only murders in the building, Finley Donovan. It's funny, it's quirky, not graphic. there's an annoying old lady neighbor next door. It's one of those kind of things. Like it's cute. I did enjoy it. This was like a quick read, and I think there's another one coming out next year, real quick. Like I feel like, wait, we're in next year. I think I'm not sure when it's coming out, but I really liked it.
Okay. Well, just to comment, I am reading the Finley Donovan book. It's Finley Donovan is Killing It.
The first one.
The first one, yeah, by El Casamano, and it's also very funny. Doesn't seem super cozy, but it's very, very accessible for me.
I think it's being labeled as a cozy mystery, but it's just I want to call it like comedy mystery. It's just you laugh through the whole entire thing. This one wasn't as hysterical as Finley Donovan, and the Finley Donovan books get better and better. I think there's like 4 of them, and they just keep getting better. But the dynamic between the dead person and the living person, and trying to figure out, their quirks and communicating. It's very much like Finley and Vero. Their kind of banter back and forth. So I think you would like this one.
Okay.
It's not murdery. Well, it is murdery. There's a murder. All right. I lied.
It's like murder. It's the gore that I can't deal with.
Well, I'm going to suggest a pretty gory book.
Okay. Let's
next, I want to, where did I put my other one? I thought I put it on my list. So I went and saw Grady Hendrix yesterday at Unlikely Story. And I consider his books like comedy horror, baby stepping into horror. He doesn't get super graphic, usually has me laughing. He's very sarcastic, dark sarcasm. And he if you ever get a chance to see him live, I'd say do it. Make a night out of it, go out to dinner, take your loved one with you, because it's a whole event. He doesn't talk about the book like at all. He does a presentation on the subject matter of the book. So when he did How to Sell a Haunted House, he would try to sell you a haunted house. It was a whole like realtor's presentation. It was hilarious. So this time around, his new book that just came out on Tuesday is Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. And the presentation he did was on witchcraft, the history of witchcraft, like the origins and how it's been twisted over time, and not just the trials in Salem, but all around the world, and really about it just targeted women, which is what this book is kind of about. So this book is about witchcraft, it's in the title. But it's so much more. It's about a bunch of teenage girls who, in I think it's the 60s or it's the 60s, I think. They all get knocked up. They're unwed. What do you do with your unwed, knocked up girls? You send them off to a home in Florida, in the woods, where no one's going to know. They're going to have their babies, and they're going to come home, and we're going to pretend like it's nothing ever happened. The girls just went away to music camp or some crap. It never happened. Move on with your life. So these girls are in this house, and they're all, they've got morning sickness, and they're just they're treated like crap by the staff because you're worthless if you're unwed and pregnant. And he does such a great job going into that. And I have to say, for a male writer, and I have such a hard time with men writing women, but he wrote pregnancy so freaking accurate. There's like a scene where they're actually giving birth, and like the women are screaming, like not just they're like screaming, like and feeling their contractions and pushing these babies out. I did listen to this on audio, and the narrator legit screams for the birthing scenes. It was perfect. But he nails it. He nailed the women's perspective. The girls start dabbling in witchcraft to kind of like, at first to get rid of their morning sickness, and then let's get the doctor. Let's give him a little sickness because we don't like him fishing around in our hoo-hoos, but it becomes so much more, and it does become dark.
Is that the scientific term? Because I just want to make sure.
Hoo-hoo?
Yeah. Because I've heard it as hoo-ha.
Well, we call it a hoo-hoo in my family. And we call willies, hoo-hoos and willies. Okay, that's the technical Blanchette term.
Yeah. I'm curious if he talked at all about his research into pregnancy and birth, because
he didn't. I know. And I was going to ask a question, but I'm like, he was on such a roll, and the vibe was so high. Like, how do you bring him down? But he did post on his Instagram and on Facebook his research. So he posted all of his witchcraft research. He took over a whole wall in his house, and then he had like a stack of like 15 books on pregnancy and how the woman's body functions, and just he did his freaking 2 years. He did his research.
Mhm.
He's almost got me believing that he's had a baby. Like it was just so well written, right?
Gotcha. Gotcha. Oh my God. That is a true level of skill there.
There are not many male writers, I think, that get it right, and he got it right. I will say, all of his books I've read have been funny.
Mhm.
I did not find this funny. I actually cried in some points
Oh, you.
because he really does get to the core of what these girls are going through,
Mhm.
and it's sad. I mean, the first half of the book is it's really sad. So I got emotional. He just brilliant, and I think this is going to be in my top 10. This is one of my ones for the top 10.
Well, I was
Just
going to say,
absolutely
first of all,
fantastic.
you never cry. That's one thing. You almost never cry. And two, I thought he wrote middle grade books. So the fact that
Oh,
he writes for adults surprises me. But
you know who's a horror writer that's coming out with a middle grade book? Paul freaking Tremblay.
yes, I heard
It
that.
blows my mind. I haven't got a copy of the arc yet. I'm gonna beg, borrow, steal for it. I'll show up at his front door at like 2 o'clock in the morning. Give me a copy. I'm just like so excited about that because we get our readers those. That's when if you can get them a middle grade, you got them for life.
Yeah.
So let's get them with the horror in middle grade, right? Paul
Mhm.
Smart, and he's such a big name in horror now. Like that was a smart move, and I hear it's really freaking good. So
But aside from that, he's an amazing writer.
he is. He
And
really is.
and I know that Grady is as well. I just had thought he was somebody else maybe. But anyways, it is really nice to hear that there's like this movement, very easy movement between adult writing and middle grade and high school and teen and things like that. That's really nice to hear.
I it shocks me. I mean, when they write this content that is, I mean, it's adult horror content and it's gory, and how do you turn that off to make a middle grade? You can have a little bit of that, but you can't have super a lot of it. So I don't know. There's talent there if you can write for all ages.
Mhm.
He needs to do like a Dr. Seuss horror for like 4-year-olds, right?
That's what we need is our kids like being,
Maybe that's too far.
maybe.
So my next book is actually just a thriller, and I believe this one comes out at the end of the month. This is Allison Galen. We Are Watching. So I've read her before, and she does pretty solid thrillers, crime thrillers. This was such a far out book. Okay, so it's about this family. They're bringing their daughter to college, and an accident happens. The husband dies. I'm not giving anything away. This happens like in the first chapter, and the wife and the daughter are kind of like settling into their lives without him, and these strange people just keep popping up out of nowhere at the bookstore that they own, and they're saying all this strange stuff, and they're getting these strange texts. Her father, the woman, oh my god, I'm totally ruining this. See, this is why I got the 80. I can't even talk. I don't know why you let me do this. um so the woman's father was like an Ozzy Osbourne type rock star,
Mhm.
and they back in the 70s everybody thought he was like a satanic warlock, right? And he built this following of people who plays the record backwards, finds meaning in all this stuff that isn't really there. They're really taking stuff and twisting it around, projecting that there's supposed to be an apocalypse coming in like a week to present day. So the daughter is feeling all of these people are coming out of the woodwork from her father, and they part of the way they feel to stop this apocalypse is they have to kill her, or the daughter has to kill her. So it's like becomes this whole convoluted thing. It's conspiracy, and it's I don't know, like all nut jobs. Like it kind of makes me think like this could really sort of happen because we have people that think like this.
Mhm.
I,
But also, you really like cult books, and this sounds very cultish.
a little, and maybe that's why I liked it because it did have a little bit of a cult aspect because you have these group of people who are communicating online, and they're like uh, infiltrating people into this woman's lives that have been in her life for years, but they've been planning this for 30 years, and she has no freaking clue until like the week before this apocalypse is going to happen. And it's just like when it hits, and it's just nonstop. It was really well written, and for being as far fetched, not far fetched as it was, I really liked it, and
Hmm.
it didn't seem like anything else she's ever written, which I thought was pretty cool.
Hmm. Well, it does seem like it's maybe not as far-fetched as it might have been like a few months ago.
Where's my clay book? What did I do with clay? All right, I don't know where I put my book. I thought I had all my stuff together. Apparently, I'm disorganized. Um, Clay McLeod Chapman. He's got a new book that came out on Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday or last Tuesday, called Wake Up and Open Your Eyes. It's a red cover. It's a family at a dinner table. The faces are kind of like fuzzied out, like a TV screen. Um, so far, and that this is, I think y'all should mark my words for this. I really think that this should be like, call me on it at the end of the year if I change my mind. I think this is the best book of 2025. 2 weeks into 2025.
Oh.
Right? Am I jumping? This is too soon. There's great stuff coming out. What are you doing, Jody? This book was, I want to swear, it was so bleeping phenomenally written. Clay, every book that he writes gets better and better every book, right? This book is, I should probably tell you what it's about. It's about now. It's about what's happening now. There it is. See, look at that. It's red. Their faces are all fuzzy because everybody's watching the TV. Everybody's looking at social media. They're getting their news from fake news. They're following, he calls it what is it? Not Fox News. It's like Fax News or something. And their slogan is just the facts. Yeah, just the facts. And it sucks these people in with all this false information and hate, and they become, so it opens up with conversation at the dinner table on Thanksgiving, and I'm swearing. Hopefully no kids watching that because I'm getting excited. Dinner table Thanksgiving, people feel like they can say whatever they want. I swear to God, he picked this from my life because this is my family. My parents are very much don't believe in transgender equality. They believe everything they see on the news, very, very much Trump supporters. And I'm not trying to be political, but it's a brainwashing. And they feel like they have to brainwash everybody around them. So this is what's happening at the dinner table in the book. And you've got the kid, the son of the parents, is there with his daughter, who is half Haitian, and his wife, who's Haitian. And they're spewing all of this hate about making all of the immigrants go out of the country. And I swear to God, it's my dad. It's my freaking dad. And so I'm chapter into this and I got goosebumps and I'm like, Clay must be like living in my house. But I don't think I'm the only one. I think there's so many people in America that are feeling the exact same way. And I'm thinking this is why the book hits so hard. So what happens is he doesn't hear from his parents after Thanksgiving. Christmas is coming up. And he's like, I'm going to go check on my parents. He lives in New York. He's got to drive to Virginia. He goes to Virginia to check on his parents. And they have become like these zombies that are like, they have a TV on in every single room in their house, full max volume, just spewing hate. And they're just like sucked into that TV. They're like, oh my God. Like at one point, they actually do put their hands through the TV. It's disgusting. And they have sex with their TVs too, because, that's the thing though. Everything right now is very much all in your face. It's over sexualized. It's over politicized. But Clay captures that. Mm-hmm. It was so gross that I don't get grossed out, but there's like 2 parts of this book that totally grossed me out. It's a little gooey. I'm not gonna lie, there's gooey parts. Goo kind of gets me. But it's so freaking well written, and he captures how the adults are taking this. He captures how teenagers are taking it with social media and how they're influencing their minds. There's school shootings brought up in this, and then the littlest kid in the book isn't allowed to have any sort of computers or social media, but he still gets sucked in from other ways, and that they all just become zombies. And then you have the one person who walks into this, who's the only one in the right mind, and is trying to I need to save my family, but you can't save them. It's just, oh my God. I'm not even giving everything away with this book. There's just so much going on in it. It's so freaking powerful. There's such a strong message. I left the book and I had to take 3 days to think about it. I had to talk to my husband about it, really talk to my husband about it. And, he's met Clay before, and we had a discussion about Clay and where is his mind if this is really what he's thinking and he's putting this on the book into a book, but he's not the only one.
Hmm. Right. So let me just ask a question. I don't want to take too long because we only have a few more minutes, but um, so I find this very interesting about genre fiction is that there can be so many messages within fiction, within genres that we really enjoy and kind of think are lighthearted, and all of a sudden we're like, oh my gosh, that had a lot of meaning to it. And do you think horror is a particularly good genre to be a vehicle for just like perspectives on life and the world?
Oh yeah, because the horror is going to show you the worst is as worse as bad as it can possibly be.
Hmm.
And like with Clay, with this book, he shows you the possibility. Like it's fiction, but it could be, except for the goo.
Except for the good.
This is legit, really. Like in the book, these zombies storm the Capitol. Like he took this from real life. He wrote this before this year's election too, which just blows my mind.
Hmm.
Um, it, it, it's the best platform. Writing a book, getting your messages out is the best platform. Doing it with horror, you were really, I don't know, accentuating, making it, it's like a freaking billboard. And it's just, it makes it more obvious to people,
Hmm.
right? You're not just talking about it.
Right. And what I really like about horror, which again, I don't read a whole lot of, but is that they don't always have happy endings. Like I read romance and everybody knows that they have to have a happy ending. So which means that everything has to be resolved, which isn't not the fact in horror because in real life, things are not always resolved.
Right, right. And this book, I don't want to say it has an open ending, but it has a very ambiguous ending,
Hmm.
which a lot of people hate. Um, I thought it was totally appropriate
Hmm.
because our story's not over.
Right.
You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and I personally am not a fan of super happy endings. I mean, in a slasher film, I kind of want the final girl to win. So yeah, I want that happy ending, but I also like villains to win too at the end.
Hmm.
This book, I think the villain is always going to win,
Mm.
and
And
it's society. It's what we're going through.
yeah.
It just gutted me. All the feels. He brought me on an emotional roller coaster. I was like happy and sad and angry, and didn't get up for pee breaks. I'm just storming right through this book, and it's a thick book too. It was like I sat, did it whole one night, and I was just like, I was just blown away. So if there's a book that comes out better than this one, it's got to be really freaking good because I don't know how this is going to get topped this year.
Good
How
to
much
know.
time do I have?
You have 7 minutes.
Okay. So next, I have a book that's coming out the end of the month, which is like what, in a week. Eric LaRocca.
Oh,
Loves. Love everything this kid has written. He's not a kid, he's the same age as me. Everything that I just want to give him a hug and like pat his head because I feel like he's like this perfect human. Oh, I just want to like snuggle him. He writes every single book he writes like Clay. He just keeps getting better. And this one, At Dark I Become Loathsome. I think this is the most intense peek into his actual brain. I feel like Eric put so much of himself into this. It's a beautifully dark book. It has a lot of, there's gore, there's some gross stuff that happens. I mean, it's Eric. You can't not have gross stuff in it, but he just grabs your heart and rips it in two. It's about a man who lost his wife to cancer, and his son is missing. And how he copes with it is he pierces up his face, and he's like disfiguring himself because he's kind of punishing himself.
mhm.
Um, he's not feeling anymore. You kind of stop feeling when you're losing everybody you love, and he wants to feel. So punishing himself is a feeling, but he wants to feel something that other people are feeling, trying to like suck their feelings on. So this is a new concept that it kind of blew my mind. So the main character Ashley is, I don't want to say he's like a grim reaper, but what he does is he talks to people on the internet who are suicidal, and he gives them a chance to experience death without dying.
Mm.
Not going to tell you how he does it because it's a whole thing. Um, but 90% of the people that walk away from their moment have a new lease on life. They're ready to pick up their lives. And, this changed my life. I'm going to dump out the drugs. I'm going to quit my job and start over and do something better. Um, but he's never feeling out of his darkness through the whole thing. It's fair. I don't know, it's just so beautifully written, so dark.
But sometimes life is dark.
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing is, how Eric writes, it's just so beautiful. Like suicidal thoughts are not beautiful, but he really, you feel it, and it's so beautiful the way you feel it. I read this and I'm like, I want to hug Eric after reading this, and I'm going to see him next month, and I'm going to hug him and be like, this really seriously, like, it's gorgeous. It's I think it's even better than his first book that took off on TikTok. So I'm hoping. It is queer horror, so there's a couple of queer sex scenes there. And it's Eric, so they're intense, they're graphic. There's prepare yourself. It's spicy.
So I have to put in a plug just for a second that both Clay and Eric will be at the Ashland Library on March 15th for a little mini horror mini horror fest. So for those of you guys that live locally, I hope you guys will make it, because we'll have a couple more authors for sure, and it's just going to be a hoot.
Are
So
you going to have readings? Are we going to let any of them do readings?
possibly.
I'm going to tell you right now, you want Clay to do a reading. And to all of you people that are listening and that are maybe thinking of coming to this, you're going to want to come just to see Clay do a reading. And if this other author is convinced to come, the two of them are like, oh my God, Ren and Stimpy, it's the best pair. But Clay is, he does a lot of stuff. I think he does acting on the side, maybe. So when he does a reading, he's not reading from the book. He literally doesn't have a book in his hands. He memorizes sections of his books, acts them out. He's very, animated and vocal, and he screams, and he'll pull your hair. It's just, Clay is like a Grady Hendrix experience. You need to see him. And for this book, I can only imagine he's probably going to throw slime on everybody.
Okay, enough about that, because but we have a couple more minutes for one more book, because I'm expecting I'll see everybody at that thing.
Oh yeah, well, everybody has to come because that's how we roll. Another one I don't have a copy of because I had a copy and I traded it for another book. At the Bottom of the Garden by Camilla Bruce.
Let me find it.
Yeah, it's like a greenish cover. So this one is about these young girls. Their parents die hiking in, I think it's like Himalayas or something like that. And their aunt, who they've never met, inherits them. And she's taking them purely because they're going to get like this big lump sum of money, and the woman wants the money. So it's like your classic, what is that? It's not Wuthering Heights. There's some, I can't remember the classic that has something like that happening in it. Yeah, that's the cover. So it's BC Andrews. I got BC Andrews all the way with this. No incest though. There's none of that funny business happening.
Good.
Yeah. But there's ghosts in there, and the ghosts are very loud and in your face. And the girls themselves have some supernatural gifts that come out when they're exposed to these ghosts in the house that the aunt lives in. And the aunt is just a no bad person. But it was really great. It was a fun ride. I really enjoyed reading it. Like I said, if you read V.C. Andrews in the 90s, you're going to love this one. Just a lot of fun.
I did read V.C. Andrews in the 90s. I also read Stephen King in the 90s. I also read, I don't know what happened to me.
What happened to you? What turned you into this romance loving crap? We lost you. How did we lose you?
I think I don't know, jaded, chicken. I don't know. But like I said, I don't know if I can read those, more hardcore books, but I met Eric, at the fest that we had, and he's just amazingly interesting.
Yep.
He didn't get a lot of time to talk because we were, in the panel, but anytime I had to talk to him, otherwise I was like, oh my gosh, you are so interesting.
I want to sit down. I want to have lunch with him. I just want to get him alone with his partner and have a meal, get some alcohol into them so that like we get all the really good stuff talking out, and like have a conversation. Just like, he's from Connecticut, he's white parents, they're religious. How the frick did he get to where he is, right? And he's
Hmm.
the nicest human in the world, and he's so acted talented. He did a screenplay last year at not last year, 2 years ago, because I'm still stuck in 2024. At Westport Library for their Westport Story Fest. He wrote
Hmm.
a screenplay. There was these two people that came out and just read it. They didn't really act it. They read it. Well, they acted it by reading it. It was phenomenal. It dealt with racism and homophobia. It was just like, oh God. And he wrote that. Like, what else can this person do?
So much. Well, I don't think I've ever met anybody in the horror community that I have not liked either. I mean, I think it's a really, really good, tight, kind, smart
I
community.
can tell you, I've met a lot of authors, and I don't think I've met a single horror author that hasn't been approachable, hasn't been open to listening to you have a rant or tell them what you loved about their stories, or oh God, they deal with all my crap, all the fangirling. But I've met so many thriller writers that are just standoffish, can't get a crumb out of them as far as conversation, and you feel like you're like bothering them.
Mm,
Or people are more open, they're
yeah,
really letting themselves out there with their books. So
it's true. It's true. So once again, we're doing this monthly. It's usually going to be on the second Tuesday of the month at
yeah,
7:30, and we are, we're doing it all year long. And I am going to be interested to see if any books can top the ones that you just talked about because it's only the 15th, only the 16th. So thank you all for being here and listening in and all of your comments. And Jody, as always, what a blast. Have a good night, everybody. Happy reading.